Hello, everybody. Thank you guys so much for turning on another episode of Binge Bitches Talk Star Wars. Today, we're going to be going through Solo, Rogue One, and the holiday special. A little bit of something for everybody, I think, in this little grab bag today. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring in some of my pals, and here they are. So we have Ian Cunningham coming to you from San Diego. He's a good friend of mine, philanthropist and Star Wars fan. We have Lily Holiday, who is back again. She is your resident burlesque artist, Star Wars super fan, and all things artistry. And she's my mask maker, too. Forgot about that. She makes masks. Hit her up if you guys need one. We have Annie Setting. She is from the Never Growing Up podcast, where you guys can find all things Disney. And I've actually been listening lately. And so even with the parks closed, they are taking the map and they are taking you by hand and showing you where to go. So find that on all those platforms. And then we also have Brian Hill. He's coming at us again. One of my good friends and also podcaster as well, 619 Bearcast. You guys can find that on iTunes. Lots of good stuff. You guys can actually find it on YouTube, where they have a setup similar where they are showing you guys the bears' faces as they speak. And it's a lot of fun. So other than that, we are going to get into these discussions today. We have Star Wars on the agenda like all the time. And this way, we're bringing this to you on Wednesday, which is a little bit different. But thank you guys so much for joining us anyway. Okay, so we're talking about Rogue One. We're talking about Solo. And we're talking about the holiday special. We are going to start things off, though, today with, let's talk a little bit of Rogue One. Because it seems like the best film out of these three that we are highlighting today in this trilogy of chaos. Came to probably 2016. It was a fun movie. I did thoroughly enjoy this. And so looking for you guys' opinions. So Brian, what was your thought when this was coming out, when we saw Rogue One, a Star Wars story coming through?
I think when it came out, I still definitely had, like, hope was still alive. You know, that, like, I'm that way with it anytime one comes out. I'm always like, you know, you just never know until you watch it. And some of the like any Star Wars movie, there were a couple moments where I was like, huh. But for the most part, I thought it was like thoroughly entertaining. I loved the different places that they visited. I love the exploration of, like, the Force being something, you know, that you believe in, even if you don't have it, you know, that you could be a disciple. I thought that the CGI that they used to bring back the bad guy from Star Wars, who I can't remember his name off the top of my head, the one who was running the Death Star. Yeah, like that was actually kind of believable. It was a little spooky, but it wasn't super distracting. And then I just thought it was a super compelling story. And for having to introduce all these people that we really have never heard of or met before, it was engaging. And it after all the dust has settled and we're past all these Star Wars movies, it's definitely one, if somebody was like, well, which one do you feel like watching? I probably would go with that one because I haven't seen it 1,000 times and picked it to pieces. You know, it's still something fresh and interesting to give my attention to.
Yeah, it was, in my opinion, like, because this is, again, my first time watching it. And I actually watched it a second time this week and understood it more. And so my mind kind of like opened up a little bit more so to it. And it's fun. And it does have, when doing my little bit of research too, is that they were instructed to not use like special effects that they didn't have in 1978. So that's why all like the shooting and like all that looks the same, because they didn't want to take it and stretch it any further, because they want this to seamlessly go into A New Hope. And I just like the, you know, the lands, you know, this whole thing where you get to go and explore different, you know, cities and that sort of thing. Annie, what was your experience with this one? Where did you get to see this first time?
I saw it in the theater. Of course, like the first thing that really shocked me was that there was no crawl. So that stressed me out. So I'm glad they rectified that with Solo, and we'll talk about that. But that was the only thing, honestly, that bothered me about it, because I thought it was a really great original story. I thought it did a really great job of tying that beginning part of A New Hope. It just makes me so sad that we can't do anything else with those characters unless we do like even more prequels or things like that on Disney Plus. But I thought they were such interesting characters, and I would have loved to know more about them. Are we like spoiling it that everybody dies, or
Well, I think it's,
I think the statute of limitations has passed. Like if you haven't seen it at this point.
And why are you watching these chats? You know what I mean? You're looking for spoilers. You're looking for how we're going to discuss this. So I think, pretty much in all Star Wars movies, everybody good dies anyways. Like anybody that you kind of have like a good feeling towards, they die at some point. If not in like the 9th movie.
Yeah,
but
30, 40 years down the road, they die. But, not at the end of the movie.
Now.
Totally.
Sorry, kids. Everyone you love died.
At the end of Empire Strikes Back.
So Lil, where did you see this for the first time? What was your impression?
I saw it in theaters, and I thought, like, stepping back from it again after the dust is settled, it is the most rewatchable one. I am a nitpicker, so of course I have my problems. Like, I feel like the cast was so very strong and underutilized, especially like Donnie Yen, like, who I'm like a fucking super fan for. Like, I feel like that was underutilized, but I also thought it was very interesting that there are little pockets of the Force, like, again, like you were saying, like, it's not necessarily Jedi, but they believe in the Force, so they've built these other. I thought that would be really cool to explore, but I feel like it was like half of a movie, you know what I mean? And the characters weren't consistent throughout. Like, Cassian starts off like, killing one of his fucking homies. And then at the end of it, he has these like moments of like, no, we're better than that. It's like, Cassian, are you? Cassian? No.
Well, I think he figured everybody's going to die. It was in the script.
Well, yeah, he dies, but I mean, you can keep the character consistent. Like, shoot that motherfucker in the face.
Yeah. I have a character question in a minute, so I'm going to pass this over to Ian real quick. And then, what was your first experience with this? And
let's see, I watched it with my George Lucas partner, and like when it came out of the theaters, I think it was like a definite must watch. It's the first weekend, it's probably Sunday. I really, really liked it, and one of the reasons why I liked it is it does stand on its own. It's the one Star Wars film that's like Star Trek: Voyage Home and this movie Rogue One, Star Wars, are the two ones that if you don't like sci-fi, if you're not into the whole genre, sit down and watch it, and you really, really will enjoy it. It has a really great tight story arc. I don't think we need to revisit the characters anymore. I think they kind of explored and fleshed themselves out. We really love Jyn. I would love if Jyn kind of, that whole heroine idea of Jyn kind of carried into the new movies, was more of what Rey was in the new movies, more that kind of a more bootstraps kind of character than the way it was portrayed. But that was also a directing thing. So I think all in all, it was an excellent, excellent attempt. And it was the first standalone of Star Wars.
Did you just say attempt?
No, it was an excellent attempt. I mean, a failure at $1.06 billion is a big failure. But no, an attempt of the first time that was the Lucasfilm, Disney was a new genre. It was a new amalgamation of the two. There was a lot of influence of Kathleen Kennedy and the whole structure at the time. So getting this on the screen the way we saw it was fantastic. But, there was a lot of going on behind the scenes. There's
two directors, yeah.
There was two directors for, actually 3 directors for Solo. It was one, Gareth Edwards. Yeah. Fantastic director. Highly, highly underrated.
There was 2 directors for Rogue One too. They had to do.
Yes, there was?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was massive like rewrites. So the thing is he started off with it. It went to somebody else's hands. It came back.
Okay, yeah. I'm glad. Okay, sorry, my bad.
No, it's like I was like looking it up myself, and so it was just it was interesting. But going back over to the character of Jyn, So at first, the first time I watched this, I didn't like her. Okay, and the second time I watched it, I liked her, and I kind of saw her the second time as more. She's scrappier than Rey. If you want to compare those two girls, she's scrappier. And the thing is she's always been handed a bag of shit. And she was raised by, what is his name? Saul.
Yeah, Saul.
Yeah. So she's raised, so the thing is so she was kind of raised by, in a sense, like a barbarian, whereas Rey was not, you know what I mean? And Rey just kind of, she found her way. But I liked her character. It's just, it's one
he was raised by an extremist, I feel.
Yeah.
Like, that's probably the word you're looking for.
Our blind warrior is one of my favorite things in the movie, and so I would say like that was, you know, a standout for me completely.
Right. When a street fight starts off with a blind guy, you know you're gonna have a good time.
Well, I mean, seriously, because it was like, is this Kung Fu Hustle for a second? Like, what just happened to this movie? And I was like, but I was here for it because there is that thing of Star Wars that you can't take yourself so seriously, and there's an element of like camp and kitsch that you have to appreciate. And I think that's why I like this, especially right now when the world is like in chaos, is that this is like a compartment of like, oh, this is a different world where everything is just what it is right now. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Donnie Yen actually, like, they asked him, you're like, oh my God, were those fight scenes hard? And like Donnie Yen, like, he goes super hard. And so he's like, no, the fight scenes were easy. That was the easiest part of the movie for me. Who even are you? I love him so very much.
So, going into this, so the thing is loving how this gives us Darth Vader. So, and then I didn't put this as a fun fact, but he only has 8 lines in the whole movie. So, for such a So and you know, James Earl Jones took that whole fee home. Like, you know,
your choke me daddy, I'm in the bathtub part. Like,
it's the first movie he says choke. It's so weird. I have all this like random Star Wars trivia in my head because when I was looking for my little fun facts for this, and there was stuff that I was like, oh, this isn't important enough, but then you're bringing things up and I'm like, oh, but I do have something there that I found. Love that. We also have, this is the year 2016, so like right after this movie was released is actually where Carrie Fisher passed away. And so, but she greenlit all of the use of her face, and she was actually there to kind of you know, be part of that. So that's why it didn't look so scary in the end, I think. Because, you know, some of them that CGI has you know, the Polar Express eyes, you know, that really
Peter Cushing looked ghoulish, but it kind of worked for his character, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first time we saw a CGI actually being used for a character that was in more than 3 or 4 scenes that actually
Lord of the Rings.
Okay, yeah, well, okay, Colin.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it's a humanoid. Actually, let me just say, not an alien or not a, you know, a fantasy character, but a human character playing a role that the actor played.
That level
of
face mapping, that was like extensive face mapping. I mean, you know, the first time I think we saw that was maybe in like Titanic when they're running down that corridor, and it's like Kate Winslet's face is just like all over the map, you know. And when you think about how far it's come since then, it's pretty phenomenal.
It's a lot better than like even what they did like in Lord of the Rings. Somebody died in that, didn't they? Like when they were filming that, or was that Harry Potter?
I think
that's a whole.
Or is that Harry Potter?
They had to graft all of the faces on the Hobbit actors, like so they had like midget actor or like little people actors, and then they had to graft all of the acting of the actual actors onto the Hobbit faces. So you see like what digital mapping was like a few years ago as opposed to like the stand-in now. So
those are movies that I have not revisited, and I don't know if I maybe. So those are like that was college days. That's when actually when me and Annie were running around together was like when the Lord of the Rings came out, and I was like, you know, running around with straight boys who thought that they were, you know, like
they thought they were.
They thought they were, and it was like, let's watch Lord of the Rings. That is a hookup movie. So I haven't seen the second one. Anyways, but
gives new meaning to the Dark Tower. I'll tell you that.
There you go. So I'm gonna go through real quick. Let's just go through some of these like little fast facts that I found in here. So Rogue One, Annie, I think you already mentioned this one. This is the first one doesn't have a crawl.
Yeah.
So but they do keep the very beginning on a galaxy far away, or whatever that thing. They do keep that part, but this is something that changed, and it was because they didn't have John Williams to do the score. That was one of the main reasons. So since they didn't have that kind of bombastic music, and that was his, they used that. And so the only parts that they used of John Williams was basically the part of the music that belongs to them, which is Darth Vader's, his canon, what his music is. So, and then I have, this is just something random because it's like, this is pop culture. So Starbucks, fucked up something, so that's how we got the name of one of these planets. So Gareth Edwards said that he came up with a planet named Scarif after ordering coffee at Starbucks because the barista wrote Scarif instead of Gareth. So they fucked up his name and he made it a planet. So that was something fun.
How dare you?
Okay, now this one, Annie, you can take this over to your podcast maybe. So there's a hidden Mickey in Rogue One. So this is like something that Disney really wanted to put their like stamp inside of there, and so they put one of these in there. During the Battle of Scarif, the smoke from one of the fighter ship explosions makes a Mickey head at about 1 hour 45 minutes into the movie. So
I don't think I like that. I like Disney and I like Star Wars, but I don't like that.
Been done, but no, not really.
It was one of those things I just thought was like, oh, that's so funny that they were like, this is our property. I think it's kind of like it's like a kick in the testicles to George Lucas this time, because it's like, and George liked this movie too, that he's been on record as saying that this is one of his favorite movies that they've actually done after this. I think because they didn't really touch much of his characters, but yeah, I think so.
I am not justifying their behavior. I'm not justifying.
It was like Mickey, like marking his territory. It's kind of
it really is.
We'll get into Mickey in the next movie, but going back to go ahead, Dangilo.
Say what you're saying. Go ahead.
Going back to not having a scroll, in a way, from a narrative perspective, you start the movie off where Jyn is. She doesn't know what's going on. She has no idea her father was the designer of the Death Star. So you as an audience member kind of walking in, you have no idea. We don't have, in a galaxy long, the Federation's doing this. We don't need to know that because we need to be right at the level of Jyn, right where she is as a young girl. Fantastic actress. She's done a total, I kind of dig her as a young actress. But she carried that first arc of the movie, that first 7 minutes of screen time so well. And, it was real and it was trying, and it felt a little Schindler's List when she kind of dived into the hole in the ground, like the way that he delved into the outhouses in the camp. It kind of had that feeling to it. It's like you're small, you're hiding from the bad guys. And it also set the tone of, this is a real unhappy world. Things have changed. And I think that not having the scroll kind of, it's kind of shocking the audience. We're so used to the fanfare and to the majesty of Star Wars, and this had none of that. So in the standalone, go ahead.
It will show that there was, at this point, there is no hope. You know what I mean? Like where the next one is New Hope. So this one starts off, it starts dark and like,
they say hope so many times, though.
Yeah.
They really do.
Hope.
Yeah, they do. They say it all the time. Well, and it's like, Saw says, don't you want to see the Imperial flag across the skies? And she says, not if I don't look up. It's like that whole thing. It's like, I don't care anymore. I don't have anything to fight for. Which kind of sets up the fact that she dies at the end. So,
well, everybody dies. That's the
everybody
problem.
dies.
Everybody
it's
dies.
Like Schindler's List. Everyone dies.
Jeez. Okay, this is dark. Okay.
This just took a turn.
So as we take this turn, as we go from one level of children, let's go over to Solo. Okay, so let's talk about Solo. Star Wars Story came out in 2018. This one was not released in the holiday season, so I think that's one of the reasons why this didn't do so well. But it did well worldwide. You know what I mean? So that's the other part of this. They originally did want to make this a trilogy, but then I think they cut that off now because it didn't do as well as they thought. I actually, watching this again, think that it could have done with another, close it up. You know what I mean? Like give us the conclusion. Where does she go? All these kind of things. So it's a fun little romp, if you will. So Annie, what was your first experience with Solo?
So I was excited to see Solo, and here's why. The guy who played Han, what's his name? Alden Ehrenreich. Okay, so he was back in the like when Twilight was coming out, Hunger Games, like all these big YA movies were coming out. He was kind of seen as like the next big actor to come out, and they put him in this movie called Heavenly Creatures, which did terribly, and which was unfortunate because it's actually like a decent story, and I think he's a great actor. And I think I was very excited that he was casted, but as soon as I heard he was casted, I was concerned. Because I was like, oh God, is this going to be what happens with what happened with Heavenly Creatures? Because Heavenly Creatures, the cast, if you know anything about it, is actually fantastic. And So I was a little worried. Obviously, I'm a big Thrones person, so I love that Emilia Clarke was cast. I didn't know if it was going to be stunt casting or not. I still think it is a little bit stunt casting. But I was excited to see it. I didn't get to see it in the theater for like, I'm gone a lot in normal life, not quarantine. So I didn't get to see it in the theater. So I only watched it like with my nephews, and I was just like, I thought it was fun. I thought it was a lot of fun. I wanted to do a little more exploration, but because it didn't do well, I don't think it's going to get that chance.
Do you mean Beautiful Creatures?
Is
Beautiful Creatures.
Is it with the witches?
Is a different movie. Beautiful Creatures.
It's Beautiful Creatures. It's Beautiful Creatures.
Is it beautiful?
Yeah.
I love
2013.
that movie. Same.
Which one is
That
that?
Hail Caesar. He's fantastic. Hail
It's the one
Caesar.
with the witches, and it has
That is beautiful.
William
Yeah.
Conlon in it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I can get my title straight.
So, knowing that Harrison Ford actually did give him the approval,
Yeah.
though, which
He's
which
a
is
great
good.
actor. It's a shame. I don't know if it's like The Kiss of Death or something, but his movies don't do well.
Yeah,
He was great in Hail Caesar. That was a good thing to point out.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's great. You watched it after this. He's really great. He was actually discovered by Steven Spielberg.
Yes.
And his father was Steven Spielberg's accountant. He was discovered at the age of 13 at some bat mitzvah. And Steven Spielberg just definitely said, "You're going to have a great career, and this is what we're going to do." He went to NYU, and he came back, and he came out fighting. He's only 32, 33 years old, so he's young.
So the moral of the story is, if you get invited to a bar mitzvah in Hollywood, you go. Always.
You do.
You say
You
Jew?
know who's there. You go. Well, it is a bar mitzvah.
Essentially. So, Miss Lily, what was your first experience with the Solo, and how were you feeling
didn't see it
about
in theaters. I illegally downloaded it like a true patriot.
Oh, geez. So this is statute of limitations is not up, Miss Lily. Okay. Keep going.
So they're like, let's check our fucking computer. No, I think like my boyfriend downloaded it or something. Let's just throw him under the fucking bus. But I remember just not being like, I heard all of like the back chatter about it, like more of like how it switched directors, and like I think this came out after Last Jedi, and I was like, no, thank you, ma'am. No, thank you. I don't want it. I don't want it. So when I ended up watching it, like finally getting around to it, it was exactly how I expected it to be. It answered questions that we really didn't have. And it's just like, oh, remember the Kessel Run? We're going to do that. Remember he's Solo? Get it? Because he's
the naming.
grown.
Oh, I wish they would have given us a different reason for him to be named Solo.
I wish they would have never made this movie.
Oh, we'll see. So, Mr. Ian, what was your feeling on this the first time?
I hated it the first time I saw it. And then I rewatched it like last night or the night before last. And I really, really enjoyed it. Only because I saw in the theater, there was so much hype, there was so much negative drama. It was a Ron Howard film, but it wasn't his film. It was two other directors, and Disney didn't like it, or it was a back and forth and all this controversy. And then the movie was And at the end, it was And I didn't like Emilia Clarke at all. I thought she was really miscast for that role. I think, I don't know why, but she just never. I don't like her. I mean, even in
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, thank you. She doesn't really sing to me. I mean, she's beautiful. She's fun to look at, but
was Game of Thrones? Was Game of Thrones done after this, or was it before?
It was during.
It was during. Yeah, it was like between
During.
5 and 6, season 5 and 6.
Wow, that poor girl. She did not have a good May.
The dirty look I just gave you was not to you. It was my husband who just took away my wine bottle. That's all.
Oh.
Not to anyone.
He should be replacing that. So, and Mr. Brian, what was your feeling on Solo? How do you feel about Solo?
I saw it in the theater. I think I've talked about it a little bit in previous episodes, but quickly, I was drawn into it because I'm a Star Wars nerd, and I like Han Solo. I love Donald Glover. I love Childish Gambino. I'm a big fan of Atlanta. It's fucking brilliant. So when I found out that he was going to be playing Lando, I was like, okay, I'm in just to see that. And I will say that I think about the first 25 to 30 minutes of the movie are kind of excruciatingly slow. takes a while to get going. The chase, the speeder chase they have, I was kind of like, all right, come on, let's get to where we need to be. And then, yeah, but once it picks up speed and they introduce more characters, I was more involved. By the end, and I think I used these exact words before, all the chess pieces had been kind of placed on the board by the end of the movie, and I was really looking forward to seeing what the next moves were going to be, because I did think it was entertaining. I thought the main guy channeled Han in a way that every once in a while you'd be like, wow, that's totally Harrison Ford. And I thought that Donald Glover channeled Lando in ways that you'd be like, oh yeah, okay, I see it, and without pandering to it, if that makes sense. And yeah, I think maybe I'm just easy. I know I'm a very critical person. Don't get me wrong. Like, I really am.
Where is it, Brian?
When it comes to these movies, I think, especially because after watching them a second time, I'm usually much more forgiving. And by the time I saw the last Star Wars movie, I must have been like in a Zen place, because I was just like, yeah, okay, fine.
Those were choices.
It's the edibles.
That's the thing too. Is I think I'm kind of like with Brian, is that I'm pretty easy on movies. I will watch a trash series on Netflix and just be like, huh. And it was my background. It was while I was cooking. You know what I mean? Those kind of things. And so that's why I think I really do appreciate these. Except for this did give me a few reasons to like, oh, watch the screen. You have, what's her name? Dandy Newton. What's her name?
Dandy Newton. Yeah.
We have her, and the thing is brief, but we have her. And then like. And the other thing about it is too, is that it kind of, with this film, is that I kind of feel that this is where I'm giving it a lot of leeway. I'm giving it a lot of love, just because I'm going to do that today. I'm in that kind of a mood. I'm going to be in a loving mood. Okay, but I'll say shit later.
Nothing but love and light here, kids.
Yeah, but I think one of the things that was cool about this is it kind of captured a little bit of that Western feeling that some of the original ones have. That it's a Western set in space. We have a bank heist, you know what I mean? You're on a fast moving train, all that kind of a thing. So there is a little bit of something there that I would like to say I appreciate it. And like, it would be a movie that I think that if it was on, I would rewatch. You know what I mean?
Did you happen to notice the little Easter egg when they're having a conversation in that kind of in the upper room in the sort of castle with the main villain guy, and there's all these gold and trinkets around in the room? If you look back there, there's actually the little gold totem statue from Indiana Jones.
Oh, really?
And I think there's a crystal skull from Crystal Skull as well.
That's just me to remind us of that movie.
How fun.
Yeah, don't want to be reminded of the Crystal Skull either. Yeah. There, I can be critical. Crystal Skull was fucking garbage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my biggest problem with the Solo thing is that it should have been a buddy heist movie. And it kind of wasn't that. It was kind of weirdly focuses on his lost love, and nobody really wanted to see any of that. He was supposed to be this dude who like lost his faith and stuff, and that's where you meet him at New Hope. And then it kind of answers these questions that we didn't want, like, oh, remember those dice? What are they for? Oh, they're for good luck. Nobody cares.
Out of nowhere.
And like, this should be like a chewy, like Han fucking comedy, like heist movie, and it just doesn't do any of that. It's just like trying to set up more and more like fucking plot that's kind of filler, and then it's like he's gonna light up his lightsaber. Remember that guy from the prequels? You liked him? He was cool and badass, right? It's like. Yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing too, is that with Brian, when he said, I love how you point at these and you guys aren't thinking. With Brian, that you have Donald Glover, and the thing is who is just spectacular, and these two have good chemistry, and so why don't you do more with the two of them as well? Because you have like these, somebody who's already a superstar in his own right, and so who could kind of push this movie a little bit more into where it should be.
And they push a slavery narrative.
Oh no, that's the. But okay, let's talk about that.
Yes.
From a queer theory point of view, this movie is all queer theory, because you have the robot she even says it, they don't like our kind in this bar. And then you have the whole thing where Lando is actually pansexual, and then he has the Liberace capes. that she has a point to go on when they're million up, and the first thing she does is go for escapes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's elements in the movie that I understand what they're getting at, and I understand what they're talking about, but
it seemed like they were really making fun of Black Lives Matter, which just really like kind of grated on me like throughout the movie. Like, haha, she's like fighting for her freedom. Robot lives matter. Am I right? I'm like, God.
See, I didn't feel
tone deaf.
See, yeah, there was. I don't know if I felt that much inside of that part of it because I didn't. That one didn't hit me so much, and so maybe if I rewatch it, I might be like, what?
Here's my biggest beef. In New Hope with Chewie and Han Solo, it was established that they can communicate because they spent a lot of time together on the Millennium Falcon, but suddenly in this movie, Han Solo speaks Wookiee, and of all the languages this poor kid can speak in all the galaxy, he happens to know Wookiee and able to communicate to Chewbacca. That makes no sense. That was like one of those things where suspension of disbelief, I know, but it was like pushing it too far. That suddenly he had this mastery of this non-phonetic language of an alien species.
Myself, I let that go a while ago because when somebody speaks to you in another language, you still talk to them in English and they speak back. I mean, it's just like language is nothing here. Like it's just kind of. It's just
nobody ever speaks Wookiee back to a Wookiee.
Yeah,
but he did. He did.
He did.
Yeah, he did. He's like, we go out. We, he was talking about, I don't know. It was like the thing with the movie.
Even in New Hope, all of a sudden, Luke can speak to C-3PO and R2-D2, speaking in whatever language droids are using. Well, more so R2-D2, but like, how does he all of a sudden know how to speak droid? Same thing for Rey. Same thing for anybody who speaks to droid.
I think I just kind of like when you're in Lebanon and they speak English, Turkish, French, and Arabic, and the thing is, and you just take it for granted. You're just like, I'm English. Please speak English to me. So it's just kind of that. It's just where you were raised that you know everybody around you have to communicate at some point. That's my central disbelief. So it's just like that was that little part. There's just little things here and there, and it's another case too where you have another fabulous actress, the chick from Fleabag, who. You know what I mean? And the thing, and we never see her. It's kind of like a Carrie Russell kind of a thing. Is that you have these amazing actresses, and let's put her in 10. Let's do this. You know what I mean?
So weird.
So it's fun.
The most underutilized cast is always a fucking Star Wars cast. That's just on. I think that's across the board.
This one has, I think, it feels like the most celebrity though in it, because like the other one, it didn't feel like you knew a lot of the people before they were in. You know what I mean? And even like Rey and like the newer characters, they weren't so known before Star Wars. Like they kind of like it's your first gig and you're going to be known as this forever. Welcome to Comic-Con. Like it really is that kind of a thing. So it's okay. So going into the fun facts, Solo is the first Star Wars movie with an opening scene not set in space. So something a little bit different. So these are like our little bar trivia. So somebody, if you guys ever win a bar trivia on this, you owe everybody in this little chat a drink. So another little fun fact here that we have is in Solo, Harrison Ford makes a cameo in the background of the sequence where Han is given his surname. Harrison's holding a sign that says "Cash Grab." So in the back, in the back,
cash grab.
So Cash Grab. So so he's actually he did show up on the set for one of those. And apparently too, another thing with Harrison Ford that it's like one of the first things that you find in a lot of the trivia is that he gave his blessing with this. He loved it, and then he left the theater before it was over, so then the kid would get all the acclaim. So that's where he put that, but then he gave interviews after and said he loved the movie, blah blah blah. But he wanted to make sure that they only took pictures of the kid after.
That's nice.
And the Millennium Falcon doesn't make its classic beep and boop noises until after L337 has been uploaded.
That's terrible.
So it never makes noises until she gets put in and becomes a hubcap.
What type of Black Mirror shit is that?
And then she's just like, "Let me out."
Basically,
the whole time. That poor thing.
It is a little bit like you were. Well, that whole slavery narrative. Now she's a slave to the machine. So there's something in there. So that's why we don't go there with these. Okay, now here's another. This is
you
my
ride in space in her magic tummy.
Exactly, and then this is my fast fact, and so that is Lando fucked that robot. Like,
And she
That-
can't
Where that special spot
because
was.
she's a fucking slave.
Like the thing, no, she's not. She's great with it. So, like, that's where I'm taking it. So, because Lando's hot. Lando's one of
I
our
haven't seen the
hotter-
movie in over
one of
a
our
year.
hotter
So.
female- like our hotter.
You know?
So, but anyway, so those are my little quick facts on this one. So, fun. So let's keep rolling with this like little moment. Let's get over to, as crazy as this is, the holiday special.
Whew.
This, you guys, fuck all of y'all. I watched it.
I love
Not
it.
by yourself though, right?
It's on now, right
Well,
now.
I who's gonna watch it with me? I'm in quarantine, so like my boyfriend doesn't want to watch the real good ones. He doesn't want to watch this. So like, the thing is it did take me back. The animation sequence in it did take me back to those like old VHS that you used to be able to rent when you were a little kid, you know. And so, and there was like little things there that too that just kind of went here and there that kind of hit my neurons in my own sense. B. Arthur's in this. Harvey Korman. And Harvey Korman plays more than one character, you guys.
For better or worse.
Oh my God. And like my past, like, so I grew up as a child of like loving classic TV. So my grandmother, like I used to spend a lot of time with her when I was a kid, and she would, you know, English was her second language. So she would love broad comedy. So it was like, I Love Lucy, the Carol Burnett, you know, like, F Troop, those kind of things. That was just like, these are funny, so watch them. And Harvey Korman was like such a big deal. So there was something about this that I think I did see maybe a little bit of this as a kid and didn't understand it. And I'm pretty sure that the
Didn't understand the context was supposed to be Star Wars.
I didn't understand any of it, and the fact that Chewbacca's family is so scary looking.
You must have been young.
Itchy, that grandfather or whatever, and like Lumpy, Itchy and Lumpy, like these people's names.
Yeah.
Scary stuff, guys.
The fucking grandpa going in and basically watching porn, which that
Totally.
Which is weird, and that whole like that those scenes have no like talking. And the thing was, and Bruce Valanche was the co-writer on this with George Lucas. And so the thing was, so they actually got into like I had to look this up and be like, whose idea was this? Where did this come from? And so like I guess Bruce Valanche, they got into like fights because he wanted to have like real dialogue in those scenes, and they were like, no, they were just doing it with the like all the throat noises.
Well,
so,
what I had read, because I went back and watched some YouTube stuff last night because there was no way I was going to watch all 1 hour and 30 minutes of that thing again. I've already done it a couple times in my life.
We are the saints.
Because Lucas was involved early on, you know, because cash grab, keep the money flowing until Empire comes out, all of that noise. But then he stepped away to go work on Empire. So the special that we ended up with, I think somebody put it was originally a Star Wars special with variety elements. And what we ended up with was a variety show with Star Wars elements, you know? So there was just like this sort of confused mess, and it's really bad. Like real bad. Even though I watched the cartoon, the Boba Fett cartoon portion of it, and while it didn't seem like it belonged in a Star Wars universe necessarily, the animation was kind of cool, and I liked it. It was neat, you know. And I can remember. So let's say I'll go on the Wayback Machine, and you know, because I was actually alive when this came out, and I remember being excited for it. I vaguely remember not really liking it even as a kid because I didn't know what the hell was going on. But at the time, you have to remember there's no internet. Star Wars isn't on VHS. It's not on HBO. It's nowhere. There's nothing. There's no way to get Star Wars. There weren't even really action figures yet because they hadn't anticipated the need for action figures. So we wanted our fix, you know, like a heroin junkie. I like want that needle back in my vein. So if the Star Wars characters showed up on Donnie and Marie, I was fucking watching Donnie and Marie. And when they showed up on and when they showed up on the Muppets, I watched the Muppets, even though I was really disappointed because Luke Skywalker played himself. He didn't actually play Mark Hamill. He pretended to be Luke Skywalker the whole time, and that was weird and unsettling. So yeah, you know, we were going to take Star Wars any way they gave it to us.
And they gave it to you. Like they gave it to you because it's an acid trip. I mean, even just the whole when they bring the little hologram board and then all the little dancers come out of it and it's like Cirque du Soleil on crack and like, and then one of them becomes big and it's like in the room with him. It was like, what does any of this mean? Like, Dad's not coming home, so watch a show. Like it's like that's kind of like the narrative there. Like Dad's not going to be home for the weird celebration. What is it?
It's Light Hope Day. They're celebrating Light Hope Day, and Han is helping Chewie get back to his family. And for some reason, the stormtroopers are looking for them. Like, I love that is like they kind of got Harrison Ford the most, which like you would think like what is Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill doing that they're the busy ones?
Mark Hamill had just had that horrible car accident, which is why he looked so crazy in those scenes.
Otherworldly.
Or the boating accident. Whatever the accident was, he had just gotten the plastic surgery, so he was completely caked in makeup to even do that scene. So
he looks like he's made out of wax.
Yeah, and that's how much makeup they put on him. Like it was just like I read that it was just right after that accident, and they didn't know if he was gonna be able to do
Carrie Fisher being coked out of her mind, like
and
time to sing.
And
time to make Mama proud.
She sings, you guys. Like Carrie Fisher sings,
and her titties weren't bound.
No,
so there was some freedom. There was some freedom of expression in those movements.
There was a definite freedom of expression. Also in the first one, because he was just like, "No, you can't wear a bra. There aren't any bras in space." So even
the bikini.
Except for the bikini in fucking space. Okay, George.
Well, that comes later. And the thing is, that's just fodder now. Come on, you've dressed up as it.
Dressed up as all of it.
Exactly.
Look when it's cold.
It is one of those series that I was watching, and I was just like, or this movie, and it was just like, wait, where did this go? Like it took a turn, and now there's a new character that makes no sense. And then there's that whole section inside of like the cafe, the diner, that B. Arthur is like, and like,
what is that?
Yeah, what is any of this?
Isn't that the cooking
show? It's very
cooking show?
She did it because her son was a fan. So so it's another sister who's like, yeah, that I'm going to do this job because I have a fan in my house. You know,
the Raul Julia reason.
She kind of had like I think she did the most with what she was given out of like between her and Harvey Korman and Art Carney. Like she kind of.
And Diane Carroll. Y'all haven't talked about Diane Carroll yet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, in the silver sequence hair.
Yeah, which is fabulous.
The space sperm or whatever.
In the 70s, if you had a gig, you worked that gig. It didn't matter what it was. There was a whole different ethic for his performance.
I'm going to pause this for a second. Go back to Solo real quick because you guys mentioned the music, and we never talked about in Solo the lounge act of like the head singing in a jar. And the girl, like that whole thing. Okay. Anyways, we didn't mention it, and I just want to say that was a moment in time. Okay, back to the holiday stuff. So we got fucked up stuff everywhere when you look at Star Wars. So, where's my dog? Just making all this.
Wasn't B. Arthur? Okay, so B. Arthur was doing like a cooking show in that, correct? Or is that?
No, that was Harvey Korman.
No, that's Harvey Korman.
Korman and drag.
Okay.
When he has more and more arms coming out, and that actually.
Isley.
But that costume would be fantastic. Like that's a great like costume, a deep dive if you're going to like a convention. So I would say that, you know, if anything you got from that would be like
the future for me.
Yeah, that was my favorite. Yeah, I could wear that costume. You could wear that.
I could wear the costume. We can all share it.
We could all be 4-armed, you know, Julia Childs.
Dangilo, so did you really watch the entire thing from start to finish?
I had it on. I didn't during that time. I maybe was in my phone here and there because I was like, I can't do this.
Okay.
So
it's really hard.
No, and there, you know, and plus we have, you know, legal things here in California, so I made sure that like we were just up to date on that situation during that movie because, yeah, it was more than an edible for that thing. It is just a wild trip, and it's one of those things. So I'm gonna flip into our little fun facts because this was something that was just funny to me. Carrie Fisher. So she was gifted a special copy of this by George Lucas, which he later asked for back because he didn't want anybody to have it anymore. But she would use this when she wanted guests to leave her parties. She would start playing the movie very loudly in her house.
Perfect.
And so, and I did a little bit more because IMDb has a moment of this, and I actually Googled a little bit more, and she actually talks it like there's like little written interview, I think, in Vanity Fair or the Hollywood Reporter, where she mentions that yes, she would put this on the biggest TV in the house and have it piped in the house so people would leave. So it was just
like the Star Wars special came out.
Well, it's not that. Think about the whole first like fucking 13 minutes are just Wookiee noises. So it's just get out of the house, like
without subtitles.
Yeah, and so
if you've got to Carrie Fisher singing, you've gone too far. If you get to Han Solo pushing somebody over a balcony, how did you get here? How did you make it?
It would be the thing is, I think if you make it to her singing at the end, you better have had a bag for her. I mean, like literally, like that's Carrie Fisher. So, and then the other thing here is Bruce Vilanch admitted to heavy cocaine use while helping write the special.
The only way.
That's where Sarah comes from.
The only way.
So I mean, like, you know, I think this is where most of this movie, you know, kind of derives. It's an amazing trip, if you will. I just
the fact that they're like, okay, really simple story, variety show. That to me, like, I don't know what it does, but it like I find that absolutely fucking hysterical. That there are all these just weird little vignettes that they're like, yeah, this'll work. Yeah. This'll. No, get B. Arthur on the phone. Get B. Arthur. It's like,
these ideas are coming fast. They're coming fast. These ideas are coming fast. Writing this down. It really is.
We'll put Grandpa Wookiee in a space masturbation machine. Yeah. There you go.
Space masturbation machine, and he's like, oh. You're like,
and Art Carney will be like, this one goes blah blah boom, you know.
Yeah.
It was
and then the Empire gets there, and then they like send like 5 stormtroopers, and then they're like, I guess we don't need to check out the death of 5 stormtroopers. We're fine now. They're cool to stay right. Like
I will say that's one of the interesting things I picked up on watching some of the clips last night was that for a holiday special, it's kind of dark that they're living under this like fascist regime that could just come in at any moment and like
Schindler's List. So it's a Schindler's List of holiday specials.
Okay, we are not. Star Wars is Schindler's List.
What was that, Lily? What'd you say?
I don't even know anymore. I'm slurring my speech.
Star Wars.
I
said that the Empire is an allegory for space Nazis. So, I mean, George Lucas admits to using Nazi propaganda stuff as his blueprint for the Empire. And I mean, that they're fucking space Nazis. I don't know what they just are.
Like, the holiday special, they definitely come at you.
Have you noticed how Aryan the Empire is?
Well, it was just let's throw everything in there, shake it up, let's see what comes out. Everybody's happy. Yep, let's all go home. Like it really and then George Lucas spent all that time trying to destroy all the copies that he possibly could. So he had them like taken off the shelves as many places as he could, and like
Carrie Fisher for saving that for prosperity purposes.
I don't know, but the thing is, it's just I would say that like. Where I kind of grew up as a kid, you know, in Ohio, we lived in very, very rural, and I grew up in Champion, and Annie will know where that is. It's like country.
You grew up in Champion?
Yeah, I was in Champion from kindergarten all the way through like 4th grade, and then we and we worked our way up. I went to Niles, and then kept like, you know, then I went to Boardman.
There it is.
So there was like a whole thing. As my dad made more money, we moved up. But the thing is, in Champion, where it's a farm town, so nobody is watching those mom and pop video stores. So they would have all of like the cuts, and they would just keep the movies, you know. So those places probably still have them like out in the and they lasted for what they were. So and then people put them on the internet, and nothing ever dies on the internet. So it's just what it is now. So it's fun. Other than that, so I think I know what everybody's feeling about the holiday special is. It's not a rewatch. Is this something that you can put on the screen?
Throw it on when you're wasted.
We should have this on the screens at like PEX for the holiday, like Thursday.
Absolutely.
There we go.
It's Light Hope Day, everyone. I'm gonna need for you to get a fucking Light Hope Day.
Light Hope Day.
There was a 7-year-old little boy who was watching this, in December. So excited to watch this. Tears running down my so excited, and then falling asleep about 10 minutes into it. Because I honestly, when I watched it, I kind of remember it, but I realized I fell asleep. I was 7 years old, or 8 years old. I was 7 actually. I was young.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. It was a long time ago, Ian.
Those were the days when you heard ABC or CBS special programming at 8 o'clock. You got so excited because it was a Peanuts, or if it was, it was a big deal.
Stop motion, Rankin Bass.
Yeah.
Ooh, your feet coming out.
Me?
There was a weird vibrate there. Okay, I think we're back.
There we go.
Okay,
we're back.
But no, I could totally relate to that. When you saw that rainbow CBS special thing, or a zinger commercial, you were just like, "Oh yeah!"
Yeah, I mean, it was Peanuts time. It was Peanuts time, and you knew where you were. Or Garfield too.
The special for this one, when I was watching this, it what do you call it? It started with this evening, Wonder Woman and the Hulk will not be shown. For a special
Friday night.
It was on the little bootleg on YouTube that it actually showed that little piece. Yeah. And it was like, oh, this is nostalgic. And
it's Friday night on ABC.
Yeah, and they show you the little toys. That was another thing too. We didn't even talk about the whole. Did either of you guys get the Kenner the box thing that you were supposed to get toys later in life?
No, my first action figure was I think we didn't start doing action figures until right before Empire came out, because I can remember having a Boba Fett the same time I got my Luke Skywalker and my Darth Vader. So something like that.
Well, they were these open close things where it would have all the little action figures in it. It would have the faces, it could be a Stormtrooper or it could be Chewie or whatever, and you'd open it up and that's where all the action figures were.
Yeah, I remember that.
That is
the carrying case.
Little cases.
Yeah.
That was the Hot Wheels. Those Hot Wheel cases were very cool.
Yeah, I bet you my mom has some of these old figures, but they're the off-brand ones. Like I said before, it's I never got any of the main characters. It was always these random whatever, The
ones that worth the most money.
Maybe. So they might be in the basement. So I have to go and look through those later. So. Okay, so this has been a good episode. Thank you guys so much for joining me again for another Binge Bitches Talk Star Wars. And so next week, I think we can probably do. Lily, have you caught up? Are you Mandalorian in there yet? Have you watched that yet?
No, but I will find a way to watch it.
Okay, so really,
super fast.
It's
Mandalorian. How many episodes is it?
8.
Yeah, and they're only half an hour.
I can do that.
Easy.
Yeah,
they're really good.
So bulk up on the Mandalorian. We're going to cover that one next week. And other than that, this has been a great episode of Binge Bitches. I want to make sure that everybody goes ahead and take a gander on over to wherever you listen to podcasts and find Never Growing Up and 619 Bearcast, both of them from our co-hosts here, Annie Setting and Mr. Brian Hill. They are both over there on these two podcasts. So please do look for those wherever you're subscribing to podcasts and such. Also, I do want to make sure that you guys are still checking out that Etsy page for Nerd Matters with Ahmed Best. He's still doing those Jar Jar signature pins. 100% of the profit is going to Feeding America Food Bank Network, which is actually doing a lot right now in the time of quarantine. So please do pick those up. They're only $12 each. So get one of those and pass that along to your friends. Also, other than that, just want to remind everybody that Binge Bitches is going to be back this Friday. We're going to be doing another episode of the reality recaps that we'll be doing Real Housewives of New York and Beverly Hills. And then later on that evening, we're doing a special live show, quick slumber party kind of edition of RuPaul's Drag Race. So those will both be this Friday. And then Sunday, we're back to the Charm School. Other than that, you guys can look for everybody. Ian, you can find him at Ian_San Diego. You can find Lily Holiday at Lily Holiday on Instagram. You can find Brian at Hasbro Physicist. And you can find Annie over at WDW Collective, where you will find all things Disney. And they're opening up in July. We just got a date, I think.
They are.
Yeah,
East Coast.
Yeah, East Coast wise.
West Coast is going to be till late August.
Well, they tested in Florida, and then they'll bring it to California. So we'll see how that all happens. But either way, don't bring that to California. But either way, you guys can find everybody there on Instagram. You guys can find me at Dangilo Gogo on Instagram. Find my TikTok. Make me TikTok famous. That's D'Angelo. Anyways, and Lily
costume, you will be.
Yes, we have a lot of fun with those. Anyways, Make sure you guys subscribe to Binge Bitches on YouTube. You guys will find us here each week. Thank you guys so much again. And this is Dangilo with the rest of the crew. We're signing out. Thank you guys. Goodbye.
Bye.